Hey everyone, this is Jason Long with JH Media Group, and we put together this webinar for you guys for anyone that is struggling getting a SaaS business started, thinking about starting a SaaS business, or on a SaaS build team that wants to know more about how to do this and if the things you're doing right now are the right things. So I hope you guys enjoyed this webinar. We worked really hard on it. We've got several more coming as part of the How to Kick SaaS book, and enjoy the webinar. I've seen so many people waste so much time and so much money trying to start a SaaS company, like millions and millions of dollars. I built my own SaaS companies and I've wasted tons of money. We worked with other companies that have done it that just really had no idea what they were doing. And I wanted to put something out there for everybody that shows you how to do this and how not to throw your money away. Like, I can't tell you for sure how to be successful in whatever area you go into, but I can for sure tell you how not to lose all your money and what the major steps you should take and my major lessons that I learned. So that's why I'm doing this. I'm doing this partly, actually, I've got a slide about that in just a second. So there's my thank you and welcome. All right, just a little bit about me real quick. For those of you guys who don't know me, and I think most of the people in here do. For me, I started my first agency when I was in college. That was in 2000, actually. I guess it's actually a bit more than 17 years, but we really didn't incorporate until 2002. And I've started a whole bunch of SaaS companies. And the companies on the right-hand side of the screen there, those are the ones that are still going and moving along. And we're going to talk about a little bit about why that is in just a minute. All right. So, why do a webinar on SaaS? This is what I was saying before. I struggled so much with SaaS. And there's some like really, really simple things to know that most people, you just wouldn't know unless you'd done it. You just wouldn't know. And then a lot of people ask me. So, all the time I've got people, oh, I want to start this company. I want to start that company. I've got this idea. What do you think? So today, you guys, since we have a small crowd, everybody can just ask whatever they want, and we'll go from there. By the way, Aaron is on here. Aaron is an awesome guy. We have so many really amazing people on this webinar today. So thank you all for coming. All right. So let's keep moving. So who's this for? If you're interested in getting started in a SaaS business, or if you're struggling with your current SaaS business, or if you're running businesses and want to avoid the mistakes I made, or if you're part of a SaaS build team. I know a number of people on the number of listeners today are a part of a SaaS build team, and they're doing this for other clients, and they're kind of like, I don't know, am I doing the right thing? I think so. I'm pretty sure, like 99% sure, but maybe not as well. So that's who this is for today. All right. And we're just going to, I think we already covered this. Top lessons, what people don't think about in 3 A's of SaaS if we got some time. If not, we're going to do another one later, and we've got a really cool giveaway at the end. All right. So now we're going to dig in. The lure of SaaS. This is the average conversation I have with somebody about SaaS. It really goes, like, in fact, I had this conversation yesterday and a couple days ago. Most people think that if they're just going to kind of get in, get going, build a thing, and it's going to work. And as anybody that's actually working in this, knows, it just doesn't go that way. The amount of work you have to do, the amount of stuff that goes into it, it's an entire career to run these kinds of things. And I think it's really, really important to point out that most people really do think just kind of step one, I kind of do something. Step two, I do something else. And step three, I got to make money. And it's not really that way. So the first lesson today, when you're building a SaaS, you're building a business. You're always building a business, even if you're traveling the world. So this is me and Kristen. I'm not sure if you can see down here. This is us working in a co-working space, and here's our team right there. And when you're building a business, you got a lot of stuff you got to pay for. That's going to be stuff like this. This is just kind of a handful of the things you got to pay for. And you got some of those things that are really expensive. So especially when it comes down to people, you can see we got our customer service agents, developers, designers, project managers. Security is surprisingly expensive sometimes. Those security guys will sometimes charge like $250, $300 an hour, and sometimes they're worth it. And of course, all the other stuff you got to pay for. I know this is only a handful of the things that go into it, but this is what a lot of people that are just getting started don't think about. When they're like, "Oh, I'm just going to start a SaaS and it's going to be great," and they're like, and then when you're like, "Oh, you need insurance," they're like, "What? Insurance?" So anyway, yeah, that's it's actually a really important thing now that if you don't have insurance, you should really, 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 really consider it. On a real quick side note, I got into a terrible car accident while I was on the clock, and my insurance paid for everything. Workers' compensation paid for everything. So, having insurance, really, really important. All right, so let's move on. Along with that first lesson, and this is something I had to learn the hard way, there's this myth of passive income in SaaS. I've heard of a couple of people that have done this, but you know what? That's like 1% of people. The other 99% of people really have to work on this. You really, really have to work hard to make these SaaS companies go. They have a really high potential for for profit margins, but it's a lot of work to get it up and going, and you have to keep doing it. It doesn't just turn into a passive income model, at least not for a while and not without a lot of work. So if you're thinking, "Oh, I'm going to build this thing and it's just going to make money," you're wrong. Maybe you're the 1%, but if you're like the rest of us, you got to work on it. Any questions so far? Anything that I'm glazing by or want me to stop on? Just pop up questions as I go along. All right. So in line with that, this is what my family thinks I do all day. I had to have this talk with my sister where I was like, "No, I actually work really a lot." In reality, it's a lot like this. This is running a SaaS business. This is my pretty much everyday, all day long. You're working. It's all the time. That's that whole, like I said, the myth of the passive income. Running all of these businesses, I can tell you 100% is not passive income. You got to work for it all the time. All right, lesson 2. Never go to the emergency room in July. Does anybody know why you shouldn't go to the emergency room in July? The reason you should never go to the emergency room in July, and by the way, you really should never go to the emergency room in July, is because all of the residents are starting. That means that everybody got done with medical school, and they're coming in to start in the ER in July. There are more deaths in the US in December. Thank you. Yeah. There's more deaths in the US by a factor by 10% in ERs in July than any other time. I don't know about December. I just looked at I knew about July, but maybe it's more. Yeah, 10%. That's crazy, isn't it? So this is the number one indicator of SaaS success as well. What it is how many times you've done it. If this is your first time getting started into a SaaS company, you're just learning the ropes, your odds of success on your first one are fairly small. And I'm going to tell you in just a minute how to mitigate that a little bit. So, but at the same time, if you're just getting started and you're struggling, don't worry. That happens to everybody. It's even worse. Medical errors are the third leading cause of death. Yes. Thank you, Tim. Yeah. Third leading cause of death. That's crazy. Okay. So let's move on from here. All right. So these are some of my businesses. These are the businesses I've started. And this goes in line with that last little lesson. So this is mostly in order. This lead button is actually out of order. These are all the businesses I started over the years that are in technology since 2000. Does anybody want to guess how many of these have been really successful? Just like give me a number, like 2, 3, 5. High numbers would be great. 3, Three. Yes. 20% for 1 to 2. Yes. That's right in line. All right. That's what's been successful. Kinda. So JHMG is not a SaaS. It is a technology company, but is not a SaaS. It's actually done pretty well. Map Dynamics is doing great. It's doing really, really well. I started that company with my business partner, Jeremy. He runs that thing full time. That's all he does. And he does a great job at it. And he's been working super hard for a long time. Brainleaf has been, I would actually kind of consider that a success. It hasn't made the kind of money that I wanted, but I learned so much from it, and we're growing that thing every single day. So, it's getting there. And then finally, MedRev, we're just getting started, but that's already looking amazing. So I haven't actually made money on MedRev, but I'm convinced it's going to do fine. All right. So yeah. So all these others, Local Dynamics was kind of like it was not a SaaS either. It kind of failed. Incentives never got off the ground. Dogwalk-It is like Rover, never got off the ground. RiskCore, we actually did kind of well on that, but it never really got going. Cancel lead button before I realized that the pricing model wasn't going to work because my costs were too high, so I had to cancel that. Guide for a Platform, that did okay, but then it kind of failed later, just wasn't worth the time, wasn't making enough money. Guide for Seniors is still running, but not doing great. And then Diagnostics Marketing, total flop. Total flop. So yeah, that's that. Not a lot of successes. But this guy right here, Steven. Does anybody here know Steven? I think maybe one or two people do. Steven Van, I can never say his last name. He's Dutch. He and I were in Colombia. We were in Medellin, Colombia, and we were sitting around, and I was like, man, I just feel like I keep pushing and trying, and things just don't work. It's just hard. And, I see some of the stories of people I know that have done really, really well. And he's like, let me tell you, man, you're right in line. This is what it takes. So we were sitting there talking, and he was like, the first business I started totally failed, lost all my money. The second business I started, my business partner and I did okay, but we kind of broke even. We probably lost money, but we felt good about it. The third one we started, which was years after the first one, we actually did pretty well. We sold it, we made some money. And this fourth one, I'm going to sell this one for millions of dollars. Now, after having done 4 SaaS businesses, I know what it takes to do this business. So if you guys are out there and you're struggling and you're like, why is this taking so long? That's what it takes, because it's an entire career. It's not just going out and doing one particular thing. It takes so long to delve deep into what you're doing and really understand what's going on. So that made me feel a ton better, because I really thought that I was just failing. And it come to find out, that's what so many of these really successful SaaS entrepreneurs that you see. That's what so many of these SaaS entrepreneurs that you see really, really go through. And actually, so I'm looking at your note, Tim, $49 LTD, and you too can be a millionaire. So Steven actually, by the 4th time he did this business, he did an LTD. And he didn't become a millionaire, but that was what kicked off that business. And in that book that I'm writing, there's actually a whole chapter on what to and not to do in an LTD. Because actually, I think it's in this. We got a minute in this webinar about it too. I'll talk about that in just a second. Anyway, so if you're struggling, don't worry. Don't feel bad. That's what it takes. Everybody goes through that. There's a few lucky people. Most of us got to work for it. All right. Did anybody hear about this guy? This was a developer who went out to San Francisco, and what do you say? He wanted to start a tech company. He wanted to start a SaaS. Went out there, was sleeping in his van. Eventually, just kind of failed at all of it. He did, by the way, end up getting a job. But this is the lesson here: is don't build something no one's going to buy, or your life is going to be really hard. because it is. And there's some tricks behind this as far as figuring out what if somebody's going to buy your stuff before you start. So has anybody here built something and then like nobody bought it? Because I sure have. Let me see if anybody. So, hold on, I'm going to take a sip while y'all think about that. Okay, so yeah, so there we go. Oh yeah, Benoit. I'm the only person that's ever happened to. Yeah. So this is the trick, is like, don't build stuff if nobody's going to buy it. And it really was. It was like the worst lesson for me, because I built so much stuff that nobody bought. And partly, we're going to get into how to fix that and why that is and how to avoid that. All right. So whenever you're building a SaaS, this is really, really important. You should always be able to answer this question. My SaaS solves whatever the problem is for a very, very, very specific group of people. So the problem that I see so often with SaaS owners getting started is they're like, yeah, I'm going to sell to marketers. Or, and I'm just like, okay, well, all the marketers? Because that's a lot of people. There's like really, really a lot of people. Who are you going to call first? And they're like, what do you mean? Who am I going to call? I'm like, who are you going to call? Who? Not like the Ghostbusters, but like, who are you going to get on the phone with to sell your thing? And so the problem people have is that they don't focus down enough. They don't say, like, I'm going to sell just to marketers that are just selling Facebook ads, that just have this one specific problem, that are just in the US, that just whatever. If you narrow it down that much, you can create a list of people and you can get on the phone with somebody, you can call a business and you can say, hey man, I got this thing that solves your problem. And then you got a really good place to start selling your thing. But when you just like put it out there on Facebook and you're like, all right, well, marketers, come buy my stuff, it doesn't work. It really, really doesn't work. You have to start somewhere. And that's the thing that so many people really, they don't get specific enough. And a lot of people, by the way, feel like when they're doing this, they need to keep it broad so they don't cut people out. But it's a lie. The more you focus, the more you open your market. I'll give you a really good example. We recently launched this product, MedRev. All right. I don't know if you've seen it. It's medrevup.com. It's a cool product. It's reputation management. Initially, it was reputation management for healthcare. And what we realized is that wasn't specific enough. That if we were going to go and talk to cardiologists, it's a different conversation than we would have with an outpatient center, which is a different conversation than we would have with or an outpatient clinic, which is a different conversation than we would have with diagnostic imaging facility. We weren't specific enough. So what we did is we're actually in the process right now of pivoting that company just to focus on hospitals. Is really, really important, because when we go to the hospitals, now we can write blog articles that just focus on hospitals. And we know exactly who our buyers are. We know exactly what they're interested in, what they like, what they don't like, how to talk to them, what kind of words they use, how to market to them, what we should say in a presentation, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. This is so important that you understand this particular piece. When you narrow your focus, you open your market. Okay. All right. So going back to not selling stuff that people aren't going to buy. If you pitch the idea to people and they keep coming back asking you when they're going to be done, when you're going to be done because they want the thing, you're onto something. If you pitch the idea and people are like, yeah, that's cool, maybe it's not a good idea. So this is something really important. There have been a couple of ideas that we've pitched to people and they're like, yes, I need that thing. Right? In fact, the MedRev product was one of those. We pitched this to a few doctors' offices and a few outpatient clinics and some hospital level people. And they were like, yep, I want that. I want that really badly. And they kept calling us, asking us, when is this thing going to be done? When is it going to be done? How do I get access to this? What do I do? Et cetera. If you don't have that, maybe your idea isn't good enough. Maybe you're not presenting it in the right way. I think that's what this, all right, there you go. Yeah, but people didn't buy my idea. Maybe it's not a good idea. Maybe you didn't deliver it in the right way. Are you solving a problem worth solving? And are you solving a big enough problem? This last item is also really important because you have to solve a problem that's worth your time. Sometimes if you're solving a little problem, that's cool. But a lot of times a little problem is worth a little money. And if it takes a lot of time to find somebody that's going to pay you a little bit of money, is not worth it. So you have to, I get into that a lot more in my book, and I could talk for like an hour just on that one thing, but it's really worth thinking about. All right, moving right along. Oh yeah. So I've got a whole, in just a minute, I've got a whole list of steps to how to validate your idea that I've gone through in the last couple of businesses I've built, and has really made a giant difference, like really, really huge difference. And I'm sure that, it can be improved on, but I feel like I got it pretty well down now. So we're going to talk about that in a minute. Okay. Yeah. So this is a homeless guy. All right. Build a house before you build a factory. Otherwise, where are you going to sleep at night? So what I mean by that is build a tool before you build a platform. This is something I see a lot of people screw up, and this is something I've messed up really badly. So let's take a look. I think, yeah, you can build the platform out of the tool later. All right, so examples of tools. And by the way, keep in mind, by the way, it's a spectrum. It's not like, tools are here and platforms are here and there's a line in the middle or something. That's not really the case. What I mean by this is something like Calendly. Everybody here use Calendly? I use it for setting up your appointments, right? Or Zoho Vault, love Zoho Vault. And Grammarly. We use it. Calendly, it does one thing. It's really, really easy. And it's cheap. I think it's like $10 a month or something, but it does one thing. Oh, Book Like a Boss. There you go. Yeah, Book Like a Boss. There you go. Thanks, Tim. It does one thing. You can grow that thing that does that one thing into something like a platform like Jira or Slack or Intercom. Even Slack started just really doing one thing. It kind of still does. But the trick here is that you have to have something that somebody is going to buy the base functionality. You have to sell people on the base functionality, and whatever you're starting with, keep it really simple. If you start off building a marketing platform and you haven't done this before and you don't have a pretty big budget, it's not going to work. You're going to fail at that. You're going to waste a lot of money. So build something simple that accomplishes something that fixes somebody's base problem, and then go from there. And remember, if you can't sell the core functionality of whatever it is you're doing, it doesn't matter what else you add. It's not going to work. Business is going to fail. So make sure that you can sell that core functionality, that one or two things that system does that solves that group's problem. All right, lesson 5. I think we only got 7 lessons, which is good because we're right on time for an hour. Any questions so far? Anybody want to bring anything up? Anything before I go on? Take a sip of my coffee. All right, cool. Thank you, Damien. All right. You're not building. Oh, still listening. Cool. Thank you, Stefan. Appreciate it. I want to keep this interesting so people keep on keeping on. All right. You're not building software. You're building sales. This is another thing. How many people here are developers? How many people? I think there's like a raise your hand kind of function in there somewhere. I thought so. There we go. +1. Yeah, Damien. I know there's a few other developers in there. Cool. There we go. Benoit. Awesome. So, and then how many people also are marketers, but not necessarily salespeople? You're really good at like Facebook ads, or you're really good at PPC, or you're really good at content, but you're not necessarily experienced in like getting on the phone and talking to somebody. How many people like that out there? And by the way, that's me. So I started in design. I went into development. I think I'm pretty good at marketing, but I wasn't necessarily great at sales. I don't love cold calling people. Phone is sales. Yeah, not necessarily marketing. Yeah, exactly. So like I don't love like getting on the phone and like cold calling people and pushing things. I would much rather like market and bring people in. But you got to, there's like a mixture in SaaS. But when you're doing this, you're building sales, you're building a business, you're not building a software system. So especially developers, they love building new features, but it's not about that. It's about bringing in money. It's about getting on the phone with somebody and being like, hey man, buy my thing, buy my stuff. When you're starting a new SaaS system, you got to talk to people. You've got to call them. Yeah, get on the phone, call those people and build those sales, build those relationships. And that's something that's hard for a lot of people. So there you go. So when you're building a SaaS company, you're building a sales and marketing company. And that's something that a lot of, especially developers, don't realize until they're deep into it, that after the base thing is done that you're building, you got to go sell it. You got to like, now it's sales time, on the flip side, by the way, a lot of times I've seen the marketers who are like push out to get to the sales side. And they're kind of like a little more lacking on the development side. But I more see people not realizing they're building a sales and marketing company. So anyway, yeah, you're building a sales and marketing company. So the corollary to that is, I skipped one. The corollary to that is if you don't like doing sales and marketing, don't build a SaaS. I think I got that slide a little bit later. Okay, so if you build it, well, they will come. That is not true at all. Yeah, it's not. If you build it and then you push and you beg and you push and you market and you spend and you hire people and you get out there and you beat the streets and you call people and you keep on doing that for a long time, then they will come. No, people have to be sold on things. It's not easy. So you just got to know that when you're going into this. All right. So that means you're going to need things like all of this stuff: personas, keyword planning, content marketing, social media marketing. We got Field of Dreams, build it and they will come. Yeah, exactly. But they won't. So you're going to need all of this stuff. And so when you're going into doing these things, every one of these things costs money. Every one of these things takes time. I'm going to go through this real briefly for you. Customer personas. This is one of the most important things you can do, quantified customer personas. So, and that takes time. That takes time and that takes money. If y'all hear clicking behind me, that's my dog walking around on the hardwood floor. Sorry about that. So that takes time and that takes money. The next one is keyword planning. People are like, oh yeah, I would figure out my keywords. No, that takes days of time to do. Content marketing. Unless you're hiring it out, and even if you are, it's not nearly as good as if you were doing it. That takes weeks and weeks and weeks of work. Social media marketing, same thing. Content automation. I think to set up MetaRev, we're looking at something like 4 or 5 weeks of work for 1 or 2 people to do that content automation, that marketing automation, and that also includes the lead scoring. Chatbot, that took us a week of work just to set up the initial system. And that's just like the base stuff. Online community management, that's an everyday job. Outbound campaigns, that's 2-3 weeks of work, depending. Can be 1 if you really are just kind of going quick. But if you're doing a really good job, weeks of work. Prospecting, sales, getting lists, takes time, getting callers, like all of this stuff. You can see when you start thinking about how much time it actually takes to do each one of these things and how much time it takes ongoing, you're like, oh, that's a lot. That's a lot of work. And it really, really is. We're talking months and months of work. If you're just one person, it could be easy to get all this stuff done well. It could be easy 6 months of work. We have a big team. We've got, like 12, 15 people, and it still takes us months to get all this stuff done. So anyway, if you're struggling, you got to think about these kinds of things. All right. And I think, here was the other. I moved these slides around. So if you're not comfortable being in sales and marketing and you don't have a partner who is, don't do this. because you're just gonna be like banging your head against a wall, because this is a marketing job. All right. Lesson 6. This is my favorite lesson. Intimacy. Um, let's see who Douglas. I think most developers like a brick when they realize the work ahead. Yeah, exactly, Doug. That's that was me when I first got started. Like I was like, yeah, I'm gonna build this thing. It's gonna work, no problem. Oh, I gotta like get out and like talk to people and stuff. Okay. Yeah. All right. Intimacy. So what that means is that when you're building SaaS, you need to be able to reach the right people in the right way and understand their needs intimately. Well, I didn't realize, I've been doing this for years before I realized exactly what that meant. So what that means is that when you get out there to talk to somebody, I don't mean like market to them, I mean talk to them. You got to know, and market to them as well, but you got to know what are the words they use to describe what they do. What exactly are the problems they're having? Not just the problems that you're solving. What are the other related problems? What are the greater problems they're having? Who exactly are these people? So, for example, at MedRev, we sell to hospital administrators and hospital marketing managers. And we've been doing this for a long time, so we knew exactly who they were, exactly what their problems were, exactly where they were going with things, exactly what they struggled with on a daily basis, and exactly the words they use to describe their problems. And that's so important. And you have to know so much more than just that. You have to know what is their budget. Actually, I think I've got my next slide. What is their budget? Like all sorts of things. We're going to get into that, I think. There we go. Yeah. So very specifically, and this is probably the most important thing in this webinar, because it doesn't matter how good your product is, if you can't sell it, it doesn't matter. So, I see. The conversation I had, it wasn't yesterday. Maybe it was yesterday. No, it was the day before yesterday. I met a doctor who was trying to start a SaaS company. He had hired a whole bunch of people. He had this whole thing going. And he ended up having to let all these people go, and the thing just didn't work because he didn't know how to reach his users. He didn't know how to talk to them. He knew the market really, really well, but he didn't know specifically how to sell the thing. And he's bringing us in now, and we had this conversation, and he was like, oh my God, like if I just talked to you like a year ago, I could have saved all of this money. And I can't tell you how many times that's happened. In fact, I had a really similar conversation the last 6 weeks, maybe 5 or 6 times. It happens all the time. So let's talk about that. Real specifically, who are my buyers? When I say that, what I mean is when somebody's buying your product, you don't have like one person buying your product. You've got a couple different groups of people. Who are they? How much money do they have? What problems are they having? What pain are you solving? How good of a fit are they for your product, et cetera? And then exactly for each one of those things, what is the exact problem you're solving for each buyer type? It really is different for each one. And then this next one, do they realize they have a problem? Are you 100% sure? And we're going to get into that more in just a minute to know exactly how that is. What's the product, man? The marketer thinks he knows, but they're wrong. Yeah, thanks, Tim. That's exactly right. Sorry if I missed your thing your post a second ago. Okay, so do they realize they have a problem? Are you sure? I think my next slide has this. Yeah, so I'm going to go back in just a second to the previous one. All right, so this is what happened to me. This is like a general buying cycle chart I kind of threw in here. Awareness. I built Brainleaf, and I didn't know that people didn't realize they had a problem. And what happened was, what happened is that people come into the market as a freelancer web developer. They don't know how to scope a project. They go and they quote a project, they sell a contract for something, they haven't scoped it, and the client just holds their feet to the fire to build them all of this stuff they didn't really count on in the beginning, and then they pretty much go broke, and then they leave the market. They never even realized that they needed to scope out that project really, really thoroughly. And so they come in and out of the market before they even realize they have a problem. And we're stuck in this awareness area. And so what I needed to do, I think I've actually got another slide. I met my competitor for Brainleaf. This guy, Brennan Dunn, he used to run a company called PlanScope. And I met with him, I actually met him in Bangkok. And he told me, he said, the problem is people don't realize they have an issue until it's too late. And what you need is an audience, not a product. So he was like, he needed to build a following before he could build a product to solve that problem, because people in the market didn't realize they had that problem. So he ended up selling that competitor, which is great. It means that there's not many competitors to what we do, but we still have an awareness issue. All right, let me go back real quick. All right, going back to this. So number 4, yeah, who said that? Yeah. Oh yeah, that's big time. Yeah, thanks, Tim. Yeah. So how much is this hurting them? If the issue is hurting them, then they'll do something about it. What features they value? What's their budget? If you don't know what somebody's budget is, so this was a big problem we've been dealing with in MedRav right now, is that we don't really know what a hospital's budget is for these kinds of things. We have a good idea, but we don't really know, because hospitals are notoriously cheap about marketing. So if you know exactly what somebody's problem is, how much they're willing to spend, who they are, how to talk to them, and how big of a problem this is for them, you can sell your product. But if you don't know those things, you can't sell your product. You're in the situation I've been in a whole bunch. All right. And then the other stuff down below, I'm going to move on forward because we're kind of running out of time. Yeah, and the other part is, can you make enough money off of what you're selling to them? Any questions about this? This is really, I know it's like 10 quick bullet points, but it's so important. I just want to make sure everybody's good on this stuff. Any questions here? Like 10 seconds for any questions. So anyway, if you have a question, pop it in. B2C, yeah, so that's absolutely true, Dan. B2B versus B2C products have different sales, for sure. Most of my experience is in B2B sales. In fact, I would say like 90% of my experience is in B2B sales. I'm not great at B2C sales. I know, so we have a couple of customers that are in B2C, and I've learned a lot about that. But like I said, my experience is in B2B. All right. So we talked about that. We talked about Mr. Dunn. All right, lesson 7. So this gets more into like once you built the thing. Little problems become big problems at scale. So New York City, it looks so small. What are there, like 20 roads there? I could probably build that in what, like a week? That's the kind of problem people run into, is they look at something, like they're looking, they're like, oh, it's a little problem. It's no issue. And then all of a sudden you have 1,000 users or 5,000 users. And all of a sudden that one little bug that you just kind of like breezed by, it's a big deal, because now you got 1,000 people calling you, and that can destroy your customer service team. When we launched, actually, I think next one, here we go. When we did an LTD, if for those of you guys who don't know, LTD is a lifetime deal. We did a lifetime deal for Brainleaf when we were first getting going. And that was a brief story of a lot of work for no reason at all, because I didn't understand this issue. What happened was, so the way LTD goes is you go to somebody who's running an LTD platform and they're like, hey, I want you to sell my thing. And everybody that buys my thing is going to get it for X number of dollars, period, flat fee, forever. You're never going to pay. They're never going to have to pay anything more for this product. And you're going to give them some version of this product. And the person that's selling it gets some cut of your product, right? And then they go sell it, and they sell tons and tons of the thing. So when we got started with Brainleaf, we were like, oh yeah, we've had like tons and tons of people sign up for this. Slowly over time, we haven't had that many issues. We're in great shape. Or not. There were a few issues that we were like, hey, this is an issue. I know it's an issue. But, like it's not really causing a problem. Nobody's complaining about it. It's on our roadmap. We'll get to it. Tell you what. Oh yeah, here we go. Sampath was the guy that I worked with at SaaS Mantra. I want to give a real quick shout out to him. Really awesome guy. I didn't know what I was getting into. And so what happened was we sold all of these things, and we had at one point, I want to say in the first week, poor Lucas, who is one of our project managers and customer service people. Oh my God, he was managing 20 chats at a time, very often about the exact same thing. Like 20 chats, he was getting totally overloaded. I was on there, Kristen was on there, other team members were on there, and it was because of stupid stuff. It was so stupid. We could have never had that. Maybe we would have had like 5, 6 across the day, but we let these little things go because we just weren't looking at them, and we didn't realize how much scaling was going to crush us. So don't let that happen to you. So yeah, any questions about that? Because it's really important. You're going to launch this thing. Don't let that happen. It will crush the morale of your team. It will crush your time. It can crush your business. So make sure your stuff is set up. And by the way, when it comes to actually doing that LTD, make sure that you've got things like your chatbot set up. I didn't have a chatbot. That's stupid. Make sure that you've got your email support management system. If you're going to put in place Zendesk or something like that, don't just do it with some like kind of half-assed system. Go all the way, because you're going to need it. You're going to need it so much. So make sure you've got that. There's a lot of other things. It's all the stuff that goes into building a SaaS. But man, I'll tell you, at scale, you can just get crushed. Okay, I think, would you know what to fix before scaling now? Oh yeah, I would know what to fix in a second, for sure. It was these like little things that kind of bugged me, but I was like, well, it's not that little, and people don't pay attention. Obviously, easy in hindsight to go, yeah, everybody does pay attention. But yeah, for sure, if we ever do that again, which we probably will at some point, not with Brainleaf, but with whatever new company. Oh yeah, I would know exactly. When we do QA, I'll go through all of that stuff with you if you just remind me. All right, and I want to finish this last part because I think it's my last lesson in here. All right, cool. Specific examples. Yeah, Robbie, give me just a sec. Let me get through this one, and then we do QA, and I'll go through all of those examples. Okay, so lesson 8. What's your job page? All right, the easiest way to fail. This reminds me of me when I first. It's like you work so hard to get to a point, just to fall. Fortunately, this girl had ropes on her, but some people don't. Okay. Product validation in 7 grueling steps. That's what this is. It's all about knowing. This is what remember I said earlier on. I was like, we're going to get to that in just a minute. This is what it takes. I'm going to tell you step by step how to make sure your stuff is going to sell before you get going. Because it's so important, and it's so easy. It's not easy. It's actually kind of grueling. But if you've done it a few times, it's a lot easier. Okay. So we already talked about step number 1. You got to fill out that sentence. This SaaS solves the problem for as specific of a group of people as possible. 2, step number 2, reach out before you build anything, before you do anything other than answer that first question. Reach out to your personal network and find a group of advisors that are in that target market. These are going to be buyers. These are people that you're going to talk to, and you're going to say, all right, guys, come on in. I want your help. They're going to buy your stuff. They just don't know it yet. So you're going to get those people together, and you're going to get them on an advisory board. And they're going to tell you how well you're doing. And you got to convince them to be on your board. I mean, it takes time, but these people are critical to your success. Next, make a list of your competitors. So you got this idea, you got these people now who are like, yeah, that's great. Good job, Jason. We're behind you. We'll see. Make a list of every single competitor, everyone that you can find, and sign up for every one of their systems and use their systems. This is something that everybody skips because they're like, oh, I got this great idea. It's totally better than everybody else's great idea, I'm sure. And that's wrong. It's so wrong. What do we say? Product, teammates, product provides service benefit, exact target market. You can do important tasks unlike competitor. Exactly, unlike the competitor. So this is the thing that so many people screw up, is that they don't sign up and use all the competitors' systems. I'm totally guilty of this. I used to be. Do it. Sign up for everybody's stuff, because what you're going to realize is that if you got this good idea, a lot of other people do too. And they may have a really, really good product that either you can't compete with, or you're going to have to match, or maybe they have a shitty product and you really can compete with them. Or they're going to give you, in the very least, they're going to give you ideas about ways to improve your system that you never would have thought of otherwise. You're like, if you don't check all the competitors first and you just get started building something, you're going to build something, and then you're going to get done. Somebody's going to be like, oh yeah, what about this thing over here this company does? And you're going to be like, oh yeah, that's a really good idea. I didn't think about that. So what do you have? Doug, I've heard that too often too. My product is the best. I don't need to look at competitors. Exactly. We're the only ones. That's it. We're the best. No, you're not. If you had this idea, there's like 8 billion people. Somebody else has come up with this idea and they've probably done it better than you already. All right. Hopefully not. Hopefully you run an Uber or something, but I don't know. I doubt it. Okay. Now that you know your competitors, you got to figure out how you're different. So once you really, really know, once you really dig in, you sign up. 8 billions? Is it? I thought it was 8. I don't know. Maybe it's 6. Whatever. There's a lot of people. It's a lot. All right. Now that you know your competitors, or what did Tim say? Actually, if you're the only one, that's a problem. Means, yeah, exactly, Tim. If you're the only one doing this, either you're really lucky, you're really early, or there's something wrong here. And more than likely, there's something wrong. It does happen. I'm sure you guys have heard of the blue ocean strategy, like taking something that is red ocean and turning into a blue ocean, as far as like, changing the way the market's working, or the way you're entering the market to be different in some way. But yeah, if there's nobody else doing this, then there might be a really good reason. You might really be lucky, but there also might be a really good reason. All right, so let's move on. Figure out your pricing model. So this is something, I think the average SaaS business spends 6 hours working on their pricing model. 6 hours. That's it. So I highly, highly, highly recommend you read the Price Intelligently SaaS pricing book. It's an amazing book. It's so good, and it will tell you exactly how to price your stuff. The chapters in the book that I'm working on, I wouldn't say they mirror them, but they definitely, I refer people to that book in that area, and I just kind of go over the basics. So figure out your pricing model. That takes a lot of time. I want to say for Brainleaf, we've reworked the pricing model, and we're changing it a whole bunch upcoming. And it probably the first time we did this, probably spent 6 hours on it. The second time, we probably spent like a week. And then we're actually looking it over again. We're probably spending another 10, 15 hours on it. For MedRev, I would say that I've spent 3 or 4 full days of working on that pricing model before I ever got started. That is really, really a lot. In a future webinar, I can show you how to do those pricing models and how to think through those things. This particular one, by the way, this particular webinar is just like glossing over a lot of stuff. So I'm trying to hit the top points, but if we do some more webinars, I'll dig down into this stuff. Okay, pricing model. All right, so now you got your pricing model. You know what your thing does. You got your people. Just hire a designer to do some basic designs. Don't do any coding. Don't do any development. Just the basics. Just like, you don't need the login page. You don't need a logout page. You don't need forgot your password. You don't need an admin panel. You don't need most of the stuff other than the core features of what the thing does. So just hire a good designer, a good UX designer to do just the core pages. So enough for you to walk somebody through saying, step 1, step 2, step N, profit. Just enough for that. And now you're going to get your advisory group into a room. And they might, by the way, go through a couple iterations of this, but you're going to get them into that room and you're going to say, here's the thing I'm selling. I've spent, I don't know, $1,000 doing this of my money, getting this designer to do all this stuff, maybe less, maybe more, depends on your thing. And you're going to try to sell it to them. So by the way, when you first get these people together, you're not offering them anything for free other than maybe lunch or dinner. Because when you get them in that room, physical or virtual, you're selling. You have to get in and you sell them this thing. You say, this is what I'm selling. Here's step 1, step 2, profit. It fixes your problem. I understand your questions. I understand who you are. I want you to buy my thing right now. If you can sell your thing to them, you're solving a problem worth fixing. If you can't sell your thing to them, go back and work on the design. Go back, work on the messaging, or it's not a problem worth solving. If you do these things, that will give you what you need to not throw all your money away. Any questions about this? I've screwed this up so many times, I don't screw it up anymore because this is key. Any questions? I'll take another sip of my coffee, my last little sip. All right, while y'all think about those questions, I'm gonna keep on moving. I think, all right, yeah. So this is kind of the last part of this thing. The rubber road meets the road where the money goes in your pocket. Everything else is just pretty words. If you got to have those people give you cash for what you're doing before you start building the thing, before you do anything, money in your pocket. That's what it takes. And I don't mean like $10. I mean like get them to buy a year of your thing at half price, because you haven't built it yet. But if they're willing to put money in your pocket, you got a winner. If you don't have a winner. All right, the giveaways. This is all the free stuff, and then we're gonna do QA. That was pretty much my first webinar. The giveaways are gonna be we're giving away our SaaS marketing checklist. This is like every single thing we do for when we're doing a new SaaS business, like on the marketing side. I know that it's easy to just be like, oh yeah, I got to chat about it. I got to do this. I got to do this. This is like the step-by-step, in-depth, piece-by-piece of the entire thing. Granted, there's a couple little things that I would like to improve, but it's a really good list. So we're going to give that away to everybody who's in here. Yes, I'm going to talk about a whole bunch of stuff in just a second. I think that's actually my QA. Okay, let's do this. Is there anybody, or Robbie, I'm going to answer your question first. And then is there anybody that just wants to ask a question? I can unmute you, or you can unmute yourself, I think, for a lot of you guys. And you can just ask your question. So I'll answer Ravi first, and then whoever's got the next question, either post it or say, I want to ask a question, and you can just ask your question. All right. And am I saying your name right, Ravi? Is that right? I hope so. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Can you talk more about step 6? Having designers come up with the UX flows? Yes, absolutely. Hold on one second. I'm going to close this thing. I happen to be a UX designer, so it makes it easy for me. Let me show you what I'm thinking. I'm going to go ahead and pull up XD so we can look at this together. All right, let's take a look at some wireframes from MedRev. Anybody here not familiar with Adobe XD or Sketch or UX design in general? Does everybody know what UX design is? Not a UX designer. Okay. But you know what it is, right, Tim? Cool. All right. So here we go. These are the designs for MedRev. So we've got kind of 2 sections. This is what it looks like. Actually, let me pull it over to the prototype type side so that we can look at how things connect to each other. So there we go. So this is what it looks like. These are just the designs that I put together. And the way this works is if I pull it up here after I've got everything connected, I can actually click through this thing. I can show people like, oh, if you want to see what social reviews look like, this is what social reviews look like. This is what, I don't think my links are working there. But I can actually click through and I can see each one of these pages and I can walk somebody through the entire process of using this system. Hold on one second. Let me do this. At this point, by the way, these flows, which I'll zoom out and you can see everything. This is a lot of work. This was a ton of work to get to this point. All right, so here we go. Account and billing setup. All right, so yeah, this is what my onboarding process. There's some notes to my developers. So you can see the user can actually click through. They can see what's going to happen. They can see, how this thing gets done. This is for the developers. This is also for this is for your users. This particular area is kind of that onboarding process. So this is more for developers that are developing it than for me to actually show people how, like, to pitch the system to people. Pitching the system was like this part down here. Cool. You as a hospital can come into the system. The system will be automatically connected to your hospital information system, or for your smaller practice, your practice management, EMR, EHR, whatever. And it will send out these surveys that will do blah, blah, blah. And we go through the whole pitch about what the thing does. And this way, before we ever start coding, before I hire anybody else, before I do anything else, before I figure anything else out, I can pitch this thing to people and I can show them how it's going to work. And I can say, will this solve your problem? You're a hospital. You want to know how all your departments are working together or being rated. Here's what I can do for you. You want to know where your top performers and bottom performers are. Here's what I can do for you. You want to know how your individual doctors are doing. Here's what I can do for you. Here's how this system works. Is this worth X number of dollars per month? So we go through and we put together these flows. And by the way, the first set we did was this right here. Just this basic stuff right there. That's all we did to start. We didn't do all of this. This is probably like 100 hours of work. But this first bit right here is probably more than 100 hours of work. This first bit right here was enough to get started. All right, let me look at your questions, Robbie. Sorry, I'm kind of jumping ahead. This is the link. Thank you, Kristen, for posting that link. All right, prototypes were designed even before a tech guy was on board. Yes, they were absolutely designed before any developers were on board. Was it more like a collaborative effort with the dev UX guys? In other words, initial prototyping? I guess I answered it. Okay, so Ravi, it's a little, I guess for us, it's a little different because we have a bunch of developers and because I've worked in development for a long time, so I kind of knew where to go. But even if I had zero developers on board, like working for me, probably what I would have done is I'd have put this together. I'd have still seen if anybody wanted to buy it. I still would have been like, hey, what do you think? Is it worth it? And then I'm like, even if maybe I didn't have my full panel, my full board together, I probably still would have said, hey, few people, what do you think? Would you buy it? And if they're like, maybe, then I probably would have then gone to a developer and said, hey, what do you think? Am I missing anything big? Like, it's usually like, what didn't I think about? Because I've been doing it for a while, so I pretty well know where I'm going. But still, sometimes, even on this list right here, I missed some things. And so they're like, oh, yeah, you missed blah, blah, blah. But even as soon as I had that feedback from them, just like, hey, don't forget whatever. Hey, is anybody going to buy this? Am I going to make money? So that's what's important. All right, let's see. All right, next question. Any other question? Yeah, next question. What else we got? And Ravi, did I actually cover everything? Is that what you wanted to know? I think the really important thing here is just don't spend money unless you're going to make money. This is the easiest way to do it. And you could just know if you're going to make money. Like, it's so much easier than like actually putting together anything. You could hire even UX developers UX designers are a little bit expensive, but it's a hell of a lot less expensive than hiring a team of developers to build anything. All right. Let's see. We got a question from Benoit. Can you give specific examples of what to fix before scaling? Thank you, Benoit. I'm sorry to forget I forgot your question. Yes, what to fix before scaling. Oh my gosh, where to begin on this? The number one thing I would do, it's not really a fix. The number one thing I would do before I scaled a product again is put together a really good chatbot. And I'm going to get into like specifically what to fix in just a second. I'll answer that. But I would put together a really good chatbot, because that is the first thing. That's like your first line of defense. If most of people's questions are answered with that chatbot, they can pretty well take care of themselves. And a lot of times when you're building an MVP and you're like getting out there for first sale, or maybe you're past MVP, but you're getting out there, you're scaling something up, you don't always have, it's not always perfectly clear how to do things. Like you don't have all the instructions really thought out. You haven't had time to iterate on every single thing. And so that chatbot can like pop things up and be like, hey, don't understand this thing? Here's the answer. And this way you don't have to go and have a developer make functional changes to the system. You can just tell people how to fix it. You just give people the information you want, or you can just link people over to a knowledge base article on how to do that. So, and by the way, that's a part of doing the chatbot system is make sure to have you gotta have a knowledge base as well. And a really good tip on this, Intercom sells their knowledge base along with their other stuff. Some people like that. I'm nervous about it. I'm really nervous, because if I want to move off of Intercom, it's going to be a pain for me to move all that stuff into my own knowledge base. So I prefer to keep my knowledge base separate from my chatbot system. So, and frankly, we got some LTDs on chatbots, which works okay. I may end up having to move up to Intercom on a couple things. If you don't know, Intercom is kind of like industry standard for chatbot systems, but it's not expensive. It's not cheap. It's expensive. And I can get my LTD going, and it's going to cost me like $200 one-time fee, and I just use it forever. A lot cheaper versus like $100 a month. So, all right. So number one, Benoit, was the chatbot. The other thing is instructions. So that was right in line with the chatbot, is instructions. So making sure that people understand how to use the system. When you've been in the system for a long time developing it, like even if you're not a developer, you're like guiding the product development. What happens is you forget stuff. You're working in it and you're like, oh, there's that bug, I gotta take care of that. Or like that annoying thing, I gotta take care of that. But I got this giant fire over here. And so when you're working on that giant fire, you're like, I'll take care of that thing later. And you forget. So what's really important is to go back through and make sure that a new user who's never used the system can go through the system piece by piece. And the best way to do that is just to get your friends in the system before you're ready to scale, and just have it like sit with them and do like real usability testing. Sit down at the computer. I'm just going to watch you. I'm going to give you a task and you go do it. And if they can't figure out how to do it, figure out where they were failing. It's kind of a broad answer. On Brainleaf, by the way, I could give you real specific answers if you want. But really, you need to have somebody new go through, do real usability testing. And once again, you give them a task, they try to do it. If they can't do it, you note where they faltered. That's basically how you do it. There's books on how to do that, but that's a good start. I'm going to stop sharing real quick. Okay. Back over here. There we go. I got to open my chat window back up. Sorry. There we go. All right. Does that answer your question, Benoit? I got to scroll back up to see everybody's questions. Make sure I didn't miss anything. Yeah, cool. All right. Awesome. I'm trying to find, there you go, specific examples. And Benoit, if you want to shoot me an email, I can give you for Brainleaf stuff, I can give you real specific stuff, like real specific. But it's always usability stuff. It's just people not understanding what they're doing or how to use the system appropriately, and like stumbling on things where you just know because you've been doing it. All right. All right. So now I'm kind of reading down the questions. Okay. I think it's a huge sell before you build it. Don't build it and sell it. Okay. Yep. I totally agree, Doug. All right. Yeah. Who said that? Was that Tim? Hold on. I gotta zoom this out. All right. Where did I put it? Yeah. Tim said, hey, if you think education is expensive, try ignorance. Oh my God. If I could have gone through and read more and done more of these webinars before I ever got started, I probably could have saved hundreds of thousands of dollars. So much money, like so much money. So yeah. Okay. What chatbot do we recommend? I use Veriloop. I got it on a lifetime deal. So we've got Veriloop running on 2 different systems right now. It's been good. I know that Intercom is better. Like Intercom is a lot better, but the cost difference just wasn't worth it at this point for us. Okay, so then let's see what Dan said. Dan said, big picture question. Have you used or recommended tools like Business Model Canvas or think through the product market? Yes, absolutely. Does everybody here know what a Business Model Canvas is? Actually, I got to scroll down to see the answers. All right, yeah, there we go. Does everybody know what Business Model Canvas is? For anybody we've still got here. I think we got still everybody on. All right, if you don't, okay, awesome. Let me answer this question for you. Give me 1 second. Great question. Really great question. Business Model Canvas. All right. So this is the Business Model Canvas. This is so, you can't see it in this one. Let me do a bigger one. Anyway, this is it. You can look it up online. Business Model Canvas. When you're doing this, there's a whole process to using this system. Like I said, when I was getting started on this, these are kind of my top lessons. But we could talk all day and all day tomorrow and all day the next day about all of this stuff. There's so much stuff to know about this. Business Model Canvas, though, is so good to know. You go through, if you can't see it, key partners, your business activities, key resources, value proposition, customer relationships, channels, customer segments, revenue, and cost. And what you do is you validate every hypothesis. This is like scientific testing to figure out if your thing is going to work. So the 7-step process that I gave you is like the short way of doing it. It doesn't seem short. It's actually 7 grueling steps. But if you have the time and you have the energy and you want to do, you're really looking at growing this thing, I highly recommend using the Business Model Canvas. There's the Lean Startup goes through this. It's a book. Highly recommend it. It's actually recommended in my book as well. And it takes you through the entire process of using this system. So yeah, and really what you're going to do is you're going to test out each one of these things. You're going to make calls. You're going to ask people. You're going to check with things. And you're going to go through each and every piece of this entire system. And I would say that really, if you've got people that are willing to buy your thing based on what we just talked about, you'll have a lot of the answers to these questions right off. However, what you won't necessarily have are some of these revenue streams and cost structure items. You have to do that stuff as well. Like I said, it's kind of an overview today. Other questions? Let me see if I'm missing any other questions up here. Stack Social, QueryBot, yep. Lifetime subscription, Business Model Canvas. Yeah, great question, Dan. That's awesome. Thanks for bringing that up. Okay, other questions? Anything else? I know we're a little over an hour, so I don't want to keep people waiting. Can't. Let's see. Global population will reach 8 billion by 2024 and on 9 billion by 2042. Thanks, Stefan. Yeah, so I was a little off. What are we at? 6-7 billion, something? It's a lot. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing again. Oh, I didn't share. I wasn't sharing my screen. I'm so sorry. I thought I was sharing. Duh. So you guys know this is the Business Model Canvas. I was not Not sharing my screen. Sorry about that. Here it is. Just search business model canvas on Google, and you'll find a whole bunch of different versions of it. There's a couple different versions. I really like the one that's done like this, where you've got the key partners, key activities, key resources, value proposition, customer relationships, channels, customer segments, and then cost structure and revenue streams at the bottom. There's a few other versions. I think this one is the best, but maybe it's just what I started with. All right, let's go on. Any other questions about today? And before we wrap up, if you have questions, post them. Let me move this back over. There we go. And I want to ask everyone, I want to do, I'm interested in doing a few more webinars like this. I want to dig way deeper into this stuff, because really we just scratched the surface of all of this stuff. I was trying to share with you guys where I screwed up. And yes, Tim, everybody needs Brainleaf to plan their projects. I want to do more of these. What do you guys think? Would you come back for another one? Was it worth it? What areas would you like to see me delve deeper and deeper into? The book that I'm working on is at like 165 pages. And I'm probably going to hit like 200 pages, then edit it probably back down to like 170. But it's really, really in depth, and that's with almost no pictures. So we can really delve deep into any one of these topics we talked about. If you want me to talk about UX, I can talk about UX. If you want to talk about that more in depth into that process of getting people going, if you want to talk about traction, if you want to talk about customer acquisition, you want to talk about all that stuff, I can talk about it. What do you want to hear about? Slideware chapters. Slideware to go along with the chapters. Yeah, I'm going to build, whenever I have time, I'm going to build a whole bunch of, actually a bunch of designs that go with it, and a bunch of other things as well with those chapters. So that'll be good. But anything else y'all want to hear about? Is there anything else you want me to dig into in the next webinar? If not, then we're going to start. I want to go into talking about pricing. I'd like to more info about validating an idea. Cool. I can absolutely do that. Funding. Yeah, I can definitely talk about funding. There's a lot to be said about funding. Actually, I don't have a chapter in the book about funding, but I can do that. Pricing would be great. I actually think pricing is going to be, pricing is something that people don't think about and they don't delve into. And after having price now, yeah, exactly. Pricing is a book. It is. There's so much stuff that goes into pricing. So we can definitely delve into pricing. I'll look over these things, and I'll put out ideas for the next one. You guys can tell me what you think. Refining feeling it's good. Oh yeah, Dan. I feel you so much, man. So yeah, I have the same problem. All right, so I'm going to talk about Dan's problem real quick. It's good enough. It is. It's fine. If it does the thing, if you can like go from like step 1 to step 2, or step 1 to step N, you can like finish the thing that is doing is good enough, because nothing matters unless somebody's paying you. You're paying customers. They'll tell you where it's wrong. They'll tell you, let them tell you, don't do it yourself. Let them tell you where you're screwing up, how things need to get done. And the other part of this is, if you spend all this money refining, and nobody buys it, you're in trouble. You're like really in trouble. You just wasted a lot of time and a lot of money. It's good enough, man. Ship it. There's a saying from, who's the marketing guy? I can't remember his name. Seth Godin. Perfect is the enemy of, opposite of good, I think. If it's perfect, it's never going to ship. If it has to be perfect, it's never going to ship. So just ship it, man. There you go. Perfect's the enemy of done. Thank you, Tim. Yeah. It's never going to ship if you don't get it out there. Just get it out there. Just do it. Put it out there. Send it over to me, and I'll push it out to some people, see who buys it. If nobody buys it, you're doing something wrong. And the other part of this is sometimes you got to sell people on the sizzle. You got to sell people on the idea of what you're doing. You need to get people behind you, build a community around that, get out there and do some webinars and talk to people about things. They'll tell you where you're screwing up. All right, hold on, let me see. Let me see. I missed. I know I talked on that for a minute. And I skipped some stuff. All right, Stefan said, "Are there companies that can build SaaS for us? Tell them what we want, pay for it, they create it. We're good at selling, but not very good at developing and design." Stefan, you're too good to me, man. Yeah, JH Media Group will do that for you. I can also put you in touch with other groups to do design and development as well. If anybody who wants help with that, you send me an email and I can help you out with it. If you don't use us, that's cool. I can put you in touch with other people. The important thing to remember here is that the more times you've done it, the more you know what needs to get done. So whoever you're hiring, make sure they don't just build stuff. They've actually done this before. And that's one of the reasons why I feel like my team is really, really good at this. So yeah, give me a call. We can help you. Or like I said, I can put you in touch with lesser expensive people as well, because my team is not inexpensive to do these things, but we are effective at doing these things. Okay. Let's see where my other question goes. Stefan said, I'm not very good at developing and design. Okay. Yeah, if you're good at selling, I can absolutely help you out, Stefan. All right, Benoit, interested in more in-depth following up on pricing and marketing. Cool. I'll get you taken care of, Benoit. Take a look at that. I answered Dan's question. He was laughing. Okay. Ravi, yes, endless refining that never ends. By the way, I had one other note on endless refining. That's what I did with Brainleaf. I really screwed that up. I really, really wasted a lot of money trying to like refine and do all this stuff. And what I should have done, this big lesson for me, I should have just made one feature perfect. I should have done the core functionality perfect. And I didn't do it. I kept adding the next thing because I was like, oh, well, I need to do this because I need this and I need this and blah, blah, blah. And I wasted so much time and so much money trying to make it perfect. And now it's so freaking complicated when people get in there because I didn't work on all the other stuff. It's really hard to really understand the depth of all the stuff it does because it does a lot of stuff. And then we end up in a worse situation because people are like, what does it do? Anyway, that's that. Okay. Benoit, I'd like to develop. All right. I'm looking at Benoit's comment from a couple minutes ago. All right. Just do like me and develop 60 websites by hand for your first signups. You're faking and have an automated builder. There you go. And artificial ship dates are awful. Yeah, artificial ship dates are awful, Tim. But like I said, if you can just have a user go from point A to point Z, like go through the system and it just gets them through, just ship it. Just do it. Unless it doesn't work, you can still put it out there. You can still have people pay you the minimal amount of money and tell you what's going on. Just ship it. Just ship it. Don't end up doing what I did because it was wrong. It was a mistake. I threw tons of money away and it was stupid. All right, let's see. Next question. All right, specific example of design validation with the advisors. Did you change the flow feature of the design page? Yes, great question, Ravi. Okay. Oh man, let me think of a really good one on this. Yes. Okay. Here we go. Let me pull back up XD. Let's take a look here. Let me share my screen. I lost my screen share. Hold on one second. Let me share my screen for you. There we go. All right. I think you guys should have the screen now. There we go. All right. All right. So, all right, here's a really good example. What we realized, all right, can everybody see my screen? Are you guys seeing the right page? Okay, cool. All right. So when we started with this, right? And we actually started without some of these buttons here. And we started with this like recent reviews. It's actually still here in the design, recent reviews, right? What we changed is we got a request for, let's see if I can find it where it's changed. Might not be changed. So we changed it when we got to code because we should have just put it out here in this, but we just said, yeah, we'll take care of it. Okay, so you can't see it in here. Let me see if I've got it in another area. Here. Well, what we ended up doing is we did this. What they didn't want to see all the surveys, because that way they were like, why do I care about the surveys? What I need is like a worksheet for the surveys that need review. So we were like, oh yeah, of course you do. Why? Like they were like, I don't need to respond to every good survey. Like I don't need that. Like thanks, but I got my main statistics. I don't need that. So what they wanted was just that surveys that need reviews, just so that they can have a worker come in and work that list and like call all these people, see what's going on, et cetera. And by the way, these are satisfaction surveys that go out. If the user gives a positive satisfaction survey, then they get like a 5-star satisfaction survey, then they get asked for a social review. If they give less than a 5-star, then it just goes into the they get like a thanks. If they give like a low end score, then it goes on to surveys that need review. So that's a good example of something they were like, yeah, this would be way more valuable. Another example was actually some of this stuff here. So, at first we were building just a system that sent these text messages. And then after talking to advisors, they were like, yeah, but we want to know who's screwing up. We want to know like who's good and who's not good. Which provider at my hospital or in my system is not doing things right? Like, because we can use our statistics to correlate like who's good, who's not good, you see what I'm saying? So this is right in line with that. The data wasn't hard to come by. We just hadn't. We probably would have logically gotten to it, but we didn't get to it right off because we just didn't know. Does that answer your question, Ravi? Cool. All right. So, any other final questions? We're at an hour and a half. I want to wrap this thing up before people just kind of randomly start dropping off. I think it's already happening. So, any other questions? I do like webinar replay. Yeah, absolutely. I'll send it out to everybody. If you came in and you didn't register, then make sure to send me an email just send an email to contact@jhmediagroup.com. And because I because I screwed up the webinar link and some people didn't register for the thing. So I don't have everybody's email. So if you didn't register, then shoot me an email and I'll send you the replay. It's going to be up on either Vimeo or YouTube, or probably YouTube. Any other final questions? Thanks, Jason. Yep, no problem, Ravi. Glad to help. I got my one at Brainleaf, no problem. So I'll set there. Anybody can shoot me an email at Jason@Brainleaf as well. So, all right, well, cool. If there's nothing else, really appreciate you guys. Thank you guys so much for coming in. I'm sorry I got the webinar thing mixed up this morning. Thanks. I'll shoot you guys all out the replay, and whenever the next video is coming up, and whenever I get this book done, if you haven't seen the link to the manuscript, I'll send you the link so you can look through what's in there. Love to get your feedback on it. And we'll send you guys all that checklist. Thank you, Kristen. So thanks so much. I really appreciate it. And I really hope this was helpful to everyone here. We'll dig in more into other things in our next webinar. Have a great day, guys. All right. There we go. See ya.